Hey guys, this is Mike with Resistance Photography. Yesterday my brother and I actually went down to the park, which is right around the corner from my house, and we decided to take a few new Facebook pictures for him. And while we were there, we came across this really cool alleyway, and the only thing that kind of bothered me about it was one side was super open and the other side was a bunch of trees. And so I tried to get a bunch of cool shots, popped out my 50, got some really cool stuff with that. But then I love wide angles, so I busted out my 2870, and in the process of doing that, the aperture change didn't click in my head and I got an underexposed image. How crappy is that? I was like, man, this is a really cool image. He's kind of hard to pose, so to get a pose like this out of him, really freaking good. So I got this image, I was like, oh, I really like it, but it's way underexposed. I wonder what I can do with it. So I started messing with it, spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours on it. The tutorial's definitely not going to be that long because I can retrace my steps pretty easily. But yeah, I tweaked it here and there and spent a lot of time, and a lot of people told me a bunch of good things about it, and a lot of people had asked me how I did it. So here I am making this tutorial. So I went ahead and I started in the Lightroom first. So here's the original image, and then if you look up there's the edited one. So you can tell the difference, pretty drastic difference. So the first thing I did was change the temperature. So I'm gonna warm it up a little bit. It's kind of a cool image. That should work for now. Later on I'll go and warm it up more if I need to. And then instead of bringing my whole exposure up, I kind of like where my sky's at, so I can bring my exposure up and bring my highlights down. But I'm actually not even going to be using the sky, so it's not even that big of a deal. So you know what, let's try that. Let's bring the exposure up just a little bit. And you know what, that works good, because like I said, we don't need that sky. Now normally I would try to save the sky because I love the sky in the shots, but since I know that I'm going to be duplicating this, mirroring the background, I don't have to worry about it. Now if I wanted to mirror the sky, what I would do is I would bring down my exposure and bring out my shadows instead, or I would bring down my highlights and boom, there we go, we got the sky. So you know what, let's just go ahead and do that anyways. We'll bring down our highlights, bring up the shadows just a little bit, and we'll go ahead and drop the blacks just a little bit, give it that pop. And then I'm going to take my clarity, and with clarity you have to be really careful with that. I'll show you why in a minute, but you can abuse clarity, which I kind of do a lot, but I love it and I don't really care what anybody thinks. But a lot of times if you just do the clarity and you don't adjust your colors or anything afterwards, it can look pretty bad. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop my clarity up. We'll do it about right there. I don't really think we need anything more than that. That might even be a little bit of overkill, but let's see if we can recover those colors down here in the color sliders. So I'm going to go to my orange, and since we lost a lot of skin tones, I'm going to bring my oranges up. And then not too much yet. That's something I can focus more on later. I just want to get a good foundation going. And I can do a little bit of reds if I want, but not too much. We don't want them to look sunburned. And then normally I would pop up the blues, kind of get some color in the sky, but I don't really have to now. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop down the red luminance. And we'll do that the same with the orange. Somewhere around right there looks good. And then the greens, we'll do that too. And probably the aquas and blues. See, I like doing it with the blues because you get so much more sky when you do that. It's awesome. And then let's see what else I want to do to this. I can do some split toning, but I'm going to go ahead and do all that later on in Photoshop. Because split toning, at least for me, can get pretty tricky. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sharpen this probably, somewhere around 50. Starting to get pretty grainy, so I'm going to go ahead and get some noise reduction going on. I usually do half of my sharpening. So if I do 50, I'm going to do 25. If I do 60, I'll do 30. It's not like that all the time, but that seems to be pretty consistent with me anyways. I'll enable profile corrections since I'm using the 2870, and maybe a little bit of vignette, not too much. That's something that I'll mess around with later if I want to. While we're at it, let's go ahead and see what my settings were. So I was at 28 millimeters at 3.5, 1/250th of a second at ISO 100. So what I should have done is I should have popped up the ISO a little bit and maybe dropped down to maybe 1/180th of a second, and then I think this image would have came out a lot better. But oh well, we'll do it like this. So I'll go ahead and right click it, go to edit, and edit in Photoshop CC. And then my computer's really slow, so we're gonna have to sit here and wait and wait. Now that we're loaded, let me go ahead and I'm gonna duplicate the background a few times. And the first thing I usually do is I'll do skin softening. So you can do frequency separation, or if you have portraiture, you can do that. If you don't have portraiture, I do have a video on frequency separation. You can follow that step by step if you want. Go ahead and check it out. It should be only a few videos back. I've only done a few of these. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run this action real quick. Speaking of, I just now started using actions like just a few weeks ago. I freaking love them. I didn't know what they were before, and I've heard everybody talking about them, having them for sale, but I guess it's kind of like a preset, but Photoshop version maybe? I don't know. They're freaking awesome. It does all the work for me. I don't have to worry about anything. It's just a click of a button. And then let's go ahead and I'm going to get my paintbrush. I'm going to hit Alt, and I'm going to click the mask tool. And what that's going to do is that's going to get rid of what I had, and then now I can actually just paint it on my subject wherever I want it, which I like doing it this way. A lot of people they might do it the other way. I don't know. This just makes more sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to run this, you know, around his eyes, all that good stuff. And then what I like to do is I like to get the whites of his eyes, because you get a lot of veins and stuff like that in there, and you know, when you go to brighten them up later, you can get some weird orange colors, all that kind of stuff. You know, you can do the eyeball like color too, but I'm not going to do that. I like the detail that it has. Not really this image because it's kind of soft, but that's okay. And then what I'm going to do now, and you know, you may think I'm crazy for doing this, is I'm actually going to run portraiture on the background. Now I'm not sure if people do this. I'm pretty sure they do. Seems like a really great idea. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's one of those things that like photographers look down on, and I've done it to a few of my images and some people are gonna hate me because of it. I don't know. It's whatever. So we may have to make this a 2-part video. That wouldn't be a bad thing. Like I said, this takes a while and I'm going as quick as I can. So let's see, the easiest way to check this is kind of just unclick these two boxes and kind of, okay, so that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna combine these layers. Apparently that's a big no-no in Photoshop, is combining all these layers and stuff. I have this back button, so if I need to go back a few, that's perfectly fine with me. If not, then poor me, I should have known better. So I'm going to click Alt and hit the mask tool. And then I want to paint, so I can probably start up here. Oh, let me switch colors real quick. So I'm going to go up here and I can bring this up. There are a lot of people who don't like symmetry on both sides. Me personally, I like it. I don't know why everybody, kind of looks down on it. I think it's I don't know, I just think it's fun. So anyways, as I'm going through and I'm masking all this stuff off, it kind of sucks because he's like, there's two of them and we don't want two of them, we want one of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish cloning this, and you guys can clone it however you want. You can make it exactly the same, or you can completely change the trees and everything. Me, I'm not too picky about it, as long as it looks cool. And then right here, this is where everybody was complaining about the green smoke coming out of the top of his head. You'll see. So let's go ahead and we'll clone this side. Perfectly symmetrical. That's fine. No big deal. And you know what? Let's see. Yep, let's take this. I'll probably drop it down to 30. Kind of blend it just a little bit. And that works for me right now. I probably should clone that in right there. I'm not worried about it. Alright. So now I'm going to want to bring some more color into it. So there's there. And then while I'm at it, let me run portraiture just one more time. And I like to do this after cloning because it kind of cleans up any mistakes that I made. In this one I definitely made a lot. But if there's a bunch of smaller mistakes, this will help make them less noticeable for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my brush, hit Alt, hit the mask tool, and then I'm just gonna clone everywhere I want. The easiest way to do it, if I haven't mentioned it already, is just go along the outside of your subject, and after you've done that, now you know exactly where you need to do afterwards. So I'm going to do this. And right now I'm not worried about getting it perfect. If I was, I would probably spend a good hour on this. Rushing, I might get this done in 30 minutes. Alright, so let's wait for my computer to catch up. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. And this layer I'm going to use for my dodging and burning. So I'll get my paint bucket, go over here, and I'm going to bring this to 50. So where it says 50% right here, click OK. I'm going to paint the whole layer, and then I'm going to go to overlay. And then what that does is that gives you your layer. So now you can dodge and burn non-destructively. So I like to start off with dodging. And I'll start with the eyes. Now this is all personal preference, all up to you guys how bright you want them. I like to make the eyes really bright, so maybe stick with 5 to 10% and run over it a few times if you need to. I know how I like to do mine. I'll make it a little brighter than what I need to and a little bolder. And then if I need to tone it down, I'll just take the opacity down. Alright, so now that we have the eyes ready, And then with the burning, I'll go and actually, I don't know if I got this yet, but I'll go and I got the insides of the eyes, but if you look here you can see the horizon, so I'll kind of just brighten those up, give some nice catch lights, and I'll go to the burn. And then I like to get the outer parts of the eyeball and then the inner part right there. Okay. So let me go ahead, and I usually get the jawline. So I get that pretty good. And a little bit under the neck. Create some shadow. Kind of bring out the jaw a little bit. And then some random spots in the hair. Maybe a little bit on the jacket. Now with dodging and burning, you can spend a good hour just doing that if you really wanted to. So what I like to do is I'll go into camera raw filter. So now that we have that loaded, I'll go ahead and bring my exposure up just a little bit, and then maybe a little bit of vibrance, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go to my colors, and then so I'm gonna bring my oranges up a little bit, give them some color. Actually, it's my luminance. I still want to bring that up, give them a little bit more orange, and then I'm gonna go to my hue, and for me the greens are too dark, so I want more of a orangey color. Maybe do that with the yellows just a tad, and then the oranges we'll go that way, and then the luminance, the greens are still dark, so I'm gonna pop those way up, and then I'll probably actually warm this whole image up just a little bit. And another thing I like to do, forgot about this, but I'll go in camera raw filter, and I like to you know, mess with the colors a little bit more. So we'll go to the split toning, and for the highlights I'll do some oranges, and then for the lowlights or shadows I'll do some blues. Not too much though, you gotta be careful with that. And then let that load. And then I'll go over and I'll mess with the color balance a little bit. So, you know, just go back and forth on these, whatever you like. You gotta be careful with this, so, because these will drastically change your image. So you just want to do a little at a time. And then for the highlights, let's see. You know, something like that is, you know, okay with me. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create another layer. And then since I'm doing a lot of yellows and blues, I'm going to make my highlights a yellow. I'm going to make my lowlights or shadows a dark blue. And I'm going to take my gradient tool, and I'm just going to pop it from one corner to the other. And then actually we're going to switch that up and do it the opposite way. And then I'll go through and kind of just pick one of these that I like. So that'll work right there. I'll bring my opacity down, and then maybe the fill down just a little bit. And then, you know, the background, you know, we could use a little less. So the background's good right there. I'll go ahead and I'll get my brush, and I'll click the mask, and then I'll bring that down, try, that works, 40%, and then I'll go through and make sure I have the right color selected, and I'll mask that off my subject. And just to be quick, but you can go through, redo the colors. I can even drop this down just a little more, all sorts of different things, and that's basically how I got this image.